Hey, I'm Matt DeMarie, and I'm going to talk a little bit about Tuvalu. So where is Tuvalu? To be honest, I couldn't have pointed out to you on a map before I did this project, but it's to the northeast of Australia and to the east of Indonesia, near the equator in the western Pacific Ocean. Tuvalu is one of the smallest countries in the world with only about 11,000 people. It was part of the British Commonwealth, and they gained their independence in 1978. They have a parliamentary democracy, but the Queen appoints the Prime Minister, and they speak Tuvaluan, but some English as well here. Tuvalu is made up of 9 different islands that are reefs and atolls. On average, it's only a couple meters above sea level with a max elevation of only about 15 feet. So much of the land is right along the coast. Here are some of the beautiful atolls that you can see on Tuvalu. Tuvalu is classified as a hot, humid, and tropical climate. They have a wet and a dry season that is dependent on the position of the South Pacific Convergence Zone. The wet season usually goes from November to April, and the dry season from May to October. You don't see much variance in the temperatures based on the season because it is so close to the equator. The temperatures are usually in the mid to upper 80s during the day and the mid to upper 70s at night. This is the South Pacific Convergence Zone. You can see right here, which was from converging winds near the equator that will allow for rising motion and more convection that leads to more rainfall. This is a typical ENSO pattern that you see with upwelling in the eastern Pacific and warm water downwelling in the western Pacific near Tuvalu. But during the La Nina years, these trade winds are reversed, and that results in less rising motion over the Tuvalu area, and therefore it's less rainfall you get there. So what's happening to the climate right now? Well, the temperature has risen about 0.2 degrees every 10 years for the past 70 years for a total increase of about 1.4 degrees. That's about double what you're seeing on average globally. So that's pretty considerable. The average precipitation annually has remained about constant, but like I said, seasonally the rainfall is changing as it becomes more prone to droughts and flooding events. The temperature rise is expected to remain as it is, if not increase even more in high emission scenarios because the South Pacific Convergence Zone is expected to intensify in a warmer climate. On top of that, you have the risk of more droughts and floods, especially with a strong La Nina that will increase the drought risk. And Tuvaluans get all their water from either rainwater or from wells, so they don't have a river or anything to rely on. So during a time of drought, it can be really dangerous here. By far the biggest challenge Tuvalu is going to face with the changing climate is sea level rise. The current rate of sea level rise is about 5 millimeters a year and is expected to rise between 16 and 58 centimeters by 2090, depending on the emission scenarios. The sea level rise is disproportionately high in Tuvalu compared to the rest of the world. And a rise in the saltwater table with a rise in sea level is going to make it more difficult to grow crops here, and it's already pretty porous soil, so it's already difficult to grow crops here. This is a map of the sea level rise across the global oceans. Just see that white spot just to the east of Indonesia. That is where Tuvalu is, and it has one of the fastest rates of sea level rise anywhere in the world, just due to atmospheric and ocean patterns. Another problem with the climate change is that it's going to lead to ocean acidification. Increased CO2 levels make the ocean more acidic, and this increased acidity will hurt coral reefs and other sea life off the coast of Tuvalu, which can affect the fishing industry and the ecosystem in the area. So in conclusion, I'm going to leave on the quote, "You reap what you sow." We often think that the consequences we have are results of our actions. But with a global issue like climate change, this is not always the case because Tuvaluans have contributed almost nothing to the greenhouse gas emissions that are leading to a changing climate. But they're going to be some of the first people that are going to experience the negative effects of it. And on top of that, Tuvaluans are not well equipped to handle a changing climate. It's generally a pretty poor country, and they don't have the ability to adapt that like some people in other places might. So that's my presentation on Tuvalu. Thank you. And sorry, I forgot, here are my references that I used for this presentation.